Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pete Perspective. I hope you're doing well today. And I want to talk to you guys about a topic that I'm really excited about and passionate about. And it's something that my wife and I have been working through and processing a lot. And that topic specifically is minimalism. And so today in this video, we're going to cover what is minimalism, why is it important, and how do you accomplish it? So what is it? Why does it matter? And how do you accomplish it? And all of this stuff is ripped off some really cool documentaries on Netflix that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about. But for now, minimalism, if you're into it, stick around. If you want to give this video a thumbs up, I would appreciate the kind support, and subscribe for more. That is definitely a big deal as I work towards some goals of mine. So thank you in advance for doing that. But yeah, let's begin. So today's topic, like I said, is minimalism. My wife and I watched the second installment of the Minimalism series on Netflix. It's not really a series, they're actually two documentaries. And so the first one came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We watched it then, and I fell in love with it then because it honestly aligned with things that I already valued. In some ways, I already was a minimalist before the documentary came out, but it actually gave me a lot of language to use around why I felt the way I felt, which was awesome. And so they came out with another installment January 1st at the beginning of 2021, which I would encourage you to go watch. Kind of relit that flame of, man, we always want to be pushing towards a simple life. And so simply put, what is minimalism? It's really just this act of living simply. The way I think about it is, there's lakes and there's rivers, right? And so the river brings in fresh water from this way, but it's also letting go of old water. And so it's kind of this constant flow of things moving through the river, right? You're getting fresh water, you're letting go, and you're receiving and you're letting go. And a lake receives water and doesn't really go anywhere, right? That water doesn't move, and a lot of the times the lakes turn green and there's moss and stuff that grows on the top of the lake and all of these different things. And so the last thing that I want for me, for my home, for my son, for my wife, is to be a swampy, green, gross lake where we just consume and don't donate. Now, I think your average person probably donates every once in a while and gets rid of things every once in a while, but I would say that minimalism really is a true discipline, and it's a way of life, and you're always working towards that. So it's not like, hey, let me donate this because I don't use it anymore, and you go to the donation center once in a while. This is, going through this vigorous process of eliminating unnecessary things in your life and staying that way, right? Fighting to keep that. And as a designer, my full-time job is a senior designer at a design agency downtown. And one of the things that we are always striving for is simplicity and clarity and nuance, right? And so we want to bring that into our home. We want you, if you were to walk into our homes today, we would love for you to walk through and every single thing that you came in contact with had a purpose and had value, and we used it. And so that's the ultimate goal, is that there's not a single piece of furniture, there's not a single pen, there's not a single book that we don't really love or doesn't have a real meaning in our lives. And so that's what minimalism is all about. I would kind of say that's what it is and how I would describe it. The other thing is, why is it important? So my wife was just sharing a story of her going to, Nicaragua, and pretty sure she went to Africa. She's had amazing opportunities to go to some really cool places that I haven't had, unfortunately, but she was sharing a story of the people there in their villages or whatever, and they don't have much. They have next to nothing, and they might have a couple chickens, and offered some of the chickens to her missionary team. And it was just this crazy idea of, man, this is all you have, and you're still giving, you're willing to give it up to some really kind of strangers in the grand scheme of things. And so yeah, that is almost, obviously their circumstances have led them to not have much. It's very different from a Western culture, from our culture, who, we have a lot of things because we choose that and we accumulate things. Truly, they are still minimalists in that regard, and they've learned that joy is not in the things. They've learned there's something about their cultures that have embedded into the DNA that, items are items. And their identity is not in their items, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why it matters, right? To live a life that you're free of being bogged down by your stuff. When you buy something, when you purchase something, subconsciously you are committing to using that product. And if that product goes on a shelf and doesn't get used, somewhere in your mind you're thinking, man, I spent money on something that I'm not using, and it kind of eats away at you. And that small feeling, it might not be much, but if you multiply that times all of the products that you might have in your home that you don't use, well, that could eat away at you in ways that you might not even be able to even comprehend. And so by and large, I think minimalism as a designer, like I said, like it's something that I already believed in. I believe that great design is simple. Great design doesn't need explained. If you were explaining your design, then I don't think it's good. And so, these are all different reasons why. I'm just explaining why it's important. We are living, breathing organisms, and I would want that for our house. I want our home to be this living, breathing organism where, it's receiving and it's letting go. When we eat as human beings, this is kind of gross, but bear with me. We eat and then we have waste, right? And so I want all of the things in my life to be the same way. I want them to consume. That's okay within reason, but I also want them to, release and let go. And those are all great disciplines to develop in your walk of life. And so that's why it matters. Minimalism is what it is. Why it matters is what I just shared. How to do it. So this is kind of the fun part, that this is where the real challenge comes in. It's funny, it's called the Minimalist Challenge. It's a 30-day challenge that they talk about in the second documentary. And it's a challenge. Like, it's called, people were DMing me. I'm sharing about my journey with this specific challenge on Instagram. So if you want to follow along, I will make sure I put my Instagram in the description. But it's just Pete, at Pete__Rodriguez. And so the challenge is, on day 1, you get rid of 1 thing. On day 2, you get rid of 2 things. On day 3, you get 3 things, so on and so forth, right? So day 30 of the month, we started January 1st. On day 30 of the month, you're actually getting rid of 30 things that day. And so people are reaching out saying, like, do you know that, it's like 400 and something, whatever that number is. It is 400 something. I'm like, yeah. No, I know, because like that's what makes it a challenge, right? And so it doesn't have to be your couch that you're getting rid of. It doesn't have to be the lamp or my GameCube, right? Like, I'm not going to get rid of my iPad. It could be a pen. It could be a paper clip. It could be, anything that you don't use or that doesn't add real value. When you grab it, you have that feeling of like, when I grab my laptop or my iPad or my Apple Pencil, those are things that like I use this. This is functional. It's meaningful. We have a speaker, a JBL speaker that we use around the house, and like that's stuff that's meaningful. We use it all the time. But there are so many little things, like a back scratcher or like a flashlight. You need 4 flashlights. Like, I don't know, maybe you do, and that's your conviction. If you do, then great, don't get rid of it. But it is a challenge. And so I'm cool with the challenge. I'm ready for it. My wife's ready for it. So follow along on that specific challenge. I think it's gonna be good. It'll be good. Together, we're actually doing separately. So I'm doing my own set of things to get rid of, and she's doing hers. So by the end of it, I actually do think it's going to be like 800 something items from our home. But that's amazing if we can clear out that clutter and just keep developing that muscle that was already there, just strengthening that muscle of want versus need. We live in a culture where we want all the time, and we have to stop and breathe and use our rationale and say, like, do I want this or do I need this? And there's time to get what you want, and there's times where you should just be content with what you have. In a year like 2020, we ought to try to be content with what we have. It's not easy. I struggle. I really do struggle with contentment. But I believe that, you can reach that. You can achieve contentment. It's a discipline. One of the studies that was really interesting in the second documentary, was that they actually put everything that people owned in boxes, and they packed up as if they were moving, but then they literally told the person, okay, everything's in boxes now. Now for the next, couple weeks, 2 weeks, I think, only go into the box if you actually need to use that item, right? So if you need a spatula to make eggs, that's okay. Go in the box, grab it, and, make your eggs or whatever. And what they found was 80% of the things that people had in their homes, they didn't actually use. which is nuts. Like 80% of the things are not functional, not those things that you are going to use every single day. And so, man, that was mind-blowing just to see that number. It was super interesting. And so, yeah, I think that we can really eliminate a lot of stuff that's not necessarily that important. And at the end of the day, like, these things don't make our home. And obviously this channel is going to be about tech and about things and about, you know, entertainment and kind of those things in life that are more, I don't know, extra. But I wanted to make this video because minimalism is still something that excites me, even though I want to review products and review things and talk about the latest and greatest stuff. I still do believe that minimalism can exist in that space somewhere. And so I wanted to encourage you to be a minimalist as well, kind of come along with me and leave a comment if you're interested in doing this or like jumping on the minimalism train. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear more about what you're thinking and processing. Feel free to reach me on Instagram, Twitter, at SomeDudePete, which is my Twitter name because the Pete perspective was taken. Anyways, feel free to subscribe. Please subscribe, actually. That would be very helpful. I'm trying to hit some goals here. And so I don't mean to, you know, be pushy, but subscribe. You know what I'm saying, dog? Subscribe, dog. Illuminati. I hope you guys are doing well. Remember that your perspective matters, my perspective matters. So cheers to a fresh perspective. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.